that.
But were they saying that because of Artha and Kama we are never, we cannot, in a sense, because we are so into Artha and Kama, that we can't, in a sense, we don't, I don't know how to put it. That longing is always there in us, right?
So that longing never goes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So let's look at this whole term. First he explains Vairagya. Yesterday I was having a first class for second class for insurance class. It was very nice because I get a little bit into the Sanskrit and how the words are formed and what they mean. And they were like fascinated, that my God, this is an amazing knowledge which is so precise and it's so exact and it has so much depth, right? So let's go into this word because the value is Indriyartheshu Vairagya, right? Now Vairagya is a very common word, like even in Gujarati we have this word, but it's a very easily misunderstood word also. Because Vairagya does give this whole connotation of tyag, leave everything. Everything is not going to satisfy human life, so just stay away from things. So that connotation is a very common connotation. So this is why what struck Nita was the fact that it's not about leaving the world. It's about seeing things as they are without adding your own color. And that particular understanding the word itself gives, right? So what Swamiji was trying to show is every Sanskrit word is formed by what we call, there is a root, right? I think even English language will have like Latin root, so you try to find the root, right? And then you add prefix, and then you add sometimes suffix. And then what we do, this is a language, Sanskrit language, which is it's a classical language, very sophisticated, okay? And then this will become, just very simple, this will become Pratipadika. Now, when you decline this Pratipadika, it becomes a noun, okay? This is the whole structure of the language. So now Swamiji uses this to explain what the word Vairagya means. Okay? So the root, here, the root is Ragaha. So if you go to Dhatu Patha, it is actually Ranj. Ranj is the root. Okay? This is the root. Ragaha becomes by the suffix, which is what he says the abstract noun, which makes it into an abstract noun. So Ranj becomes Ragaha. And a prefix is V. Okay? Now, so you're right. This becomes Ragaha and abstract noun makes it Vairagya. Okay? So that the sense of being dispassionate. Okay? Now, the key to this whole thing is first to find the meaning of the root. Right? Then you can see other operations. Because unless you know the meaning of the root, you don't know what is the basis of this meaning, right? So the root Ranj or Ragaha, as Tushar said, is to color. It has got nothing to do with anything. Color. Color, it can mean color, or it can mean what? To color your vision. What does it mean? To add your own interpretation rather than seeing things as they are, right? So in this, color means you add your own interpretation rather than seeing things as they are. And V is a prefix which says Vigataha, Ragaha, Yasman. This coloring is not there. And this is an abstract noun, so that means the sense of, it's a state of being somebody who does not color things. Color things means it doesn't add its own interpretation onto things, is able to see things as they are.
Transparent.
Right? Transparent. Right? So now, what it means is, suppose you use the terminology that I have Vairagya towards money. If you use this definition, what would it mean? would it mean that you are staying away from money, or that you have?
That you have a very objective, utilitarian approach towards money, and it's a means towards an end, and that's about it.
Super.
Money
Right?
is money.
There is no added value that I give to it. Perfect, right? So what Namo says is absolutely perfect. So that means generally we understand dispassion, vairagya towards money is something as stay away from it, right? And in fact, so many stories are made around a person who is wise person, and how that person is so dispassionate, in the sense it stays away from money. So there is a very famous example. So somebody was praising his guru by saying that, my teacher has so much vairagya that one day, without his knowing, we put little money below his pillow and he couldn't sleep at night. So that is shown as that so much dispassion he has towards money, that even the presence of money is something, he feels that there is some discomfort, even if he doesn't know it. So my teacher used to always say that if your comfort comes with physical absence of things, then you are not a comfortable human being. Right? So you have to discover yourself as a comfortable human being in presence and absence of things. If things start mattering to you so much, that means in fact you don't have vairagya, right? So that means what happens is, what we do generally is, this is what we call our color. In Sanskrit, we call it Shobhanadhyasa. Shobhanadhyasa means we add our own value to it, and what is interesting is it can go in one direction or the other. The positive Shobhanadhyasa means money is going to make me the coolest person, and my whole self-image actually depends. The more money I have, the more status I will have in the society, and I'm more acceptable even to myself, and it is going to solve my problem of insecurity and unhappiness. This is what we call Shobhanadhyasa in a positive direction, in the sense that you give more importance to money than what it actually can give you. You understand that? The other direction is negative Shobhanadhyasa. And this is the example of this guru who says, oh, money disturbs me. Right? So that's exactly what I'm explaining. Both are Shobhanadhyasa. Both have projection, one in a positive direction and the other one in the negative direction. So vairagya actually means that have the factual.
So is it like knowing the difference between the real and the unreal?
So that means either our whole thinking shifts from here to here. This is why there is no objectivity, right? So that means, suppose you call somebody material, then you project that person as somebody who's only looking for that person, money is the end, and that person will do anything to get that money and sacrifice values, and and that person then becomes arrogant and all that, right? So this is what we call a material person. These are mental pictures we build. Do you understand? And this person who kind of tries to stay away from money, we call this person spiritual. But actually what Vedanta is talking about is both are misguided. What is reality, the person that you want to be is neither this nor that, but this person who sees money, it is its factual value. What it can do for you is many things, right? It can make you buy comfortable homes, it can make you buy nice cars to move around, it can buy you, education for your kids, it can do many things, holidays, it can do many things, and there's nothing wrong with those things. But if you start thinking, wonderful, right? The resources that you have, and suppose you have excess resources, then what, you're right, you can actually help so many people, right? That it also gives you an opportunity to be a contributor. Wonderful, right? So there's nothing bad about money. Please understand that. Okay?
Either.
Either, exactly. So that's
All
why I
three
said,
cases Shobhananda.
so both these cases are Shobhanatyasa. And when you give a factual, then that is Vairagya. Do you understand? So either we give positive value, which is not exactly, or we also give negative. We try to say, oh, it's a source of all problems. These are the source of all problems, right? So that is also yet another Shobhanatyasa, but in the other direction. But when you see the factual value of money and you are able to see it, neither you are giving positive coloring nor negative coloring, that is what we call Vairagya. Is it clear? Okay. So now, suppose you can do it with reference to money. Money is a good example because a lot of our lives are devoted to earning and committed to everything that money can buy. That's okay. But in this also applies not only to money and objects, right? It also applies to people. So what it means is that any person that is in your life or you want to be is again the same thing. Either we kind of are totally fall in love and we are enamored by them and we think that that person will solve my problems, and this is how we fall in love, right? We think that, oh, now this person is the person for me and I will be happy for the rest of my life and all that. And then after living with that person, what sometimes it can be what everything that that person does irritates you. So that means you're moving from here to here. And what is the factual value of that person?
You realize what that person is.
What that person is a source of
He
that
has his
person has
personal
good
kind.
qualities, and that person has something which is what not so good qualities. And at the same time, you also are very clear that nobody else is a source of your happiness. This is something you need to figure out. If you're dependent upon anything else for your well-being, right, and if it becomes dependence, then that means that there is no well-being. You can like people. It's not like you don't like people, and you can care for people, and you can do things, and you can have very good relationships with them. But if there is a dependency, you think that this person is going to cause me happiness, in fact, you'll always be disappointed, right? So this Vairagya is not only with the money stands for any object, and the money also any person, right? So he first explains this, what exactly is Vairagya in the first place, so you know what you are trying to achieve. Because otherwise, suppose you carry in mind that by Vairagya, what is meant is I have to achieve this, that I have to, not exactly, state of not wanting anything. He clarifies by saying that it is not that, it is just seeing everything in its own place. Okay. Now, the second thing he does is, he says, he asks this question, why do we have Shobhanatyasa in the first place? Not only one person has it, but all of us have it. In the sense that, suppose Nita can have Shobhana, something that, one thing is preference. Preference is wonderful, right? He says that's not at all a problem. But here, there is a kind of a coloring involved when there is a dependency on that object or the person for your happiness. So that means somebody may love diamonds, somebody, sorry?
Does it also apply to situations?
Yes, it's super. Yes, it also applies. Can you give an example of that? Yes.
If I say this happens and these things come together and this event occurs, then I'll be happy, otherwise I'm miserable.
Very true. So we try to recreate situations which made us happy. So I remember that many of us have this school reunions and things like that. So in fact to that, because somehow we felt that we were happy then, and when we meet, it recreates that whole situation which was then, and we all kind of sometimes laugh and do all crazy things when we meet like that, because we are trying to relive what was then, right? 20 years ago or something. So you're absolutely right. Situations, dependency on situations is awful. So So object, situations and persons. Okay. Now you can like any one of them and there is no problem with it, but the dependency is that which actually colors your thinking. Right? Now what Swamiji goes ahead and shows is why do we all have tendency with reference to some areas you can be very factual, right? But in some areas we act, right? So for example, Tushar may be very factual with reference to personal relationships, but he could have the whole life driven towards earning. I mean, I'm just giving the example. So that means in one he's factual, but in the other area he's not. So all of us are it's not like we always have problems with things, right? But invariably there are things with reference to which we have coloring and we have lost that objectivity. Okay. So Swamiji explains why is it the most common phenomena. We are all intelligent human beings. We all have thinking capacity. Why is it that we end up having Shobhana Dhyasa in one direction or the other with reference to something, right? So what is the answer he gives is what Devesh was talking about. What he was saying is, we start with an assumption. That assumption itself is wrong. That I am small and I am insignificant.
Insecurity is a main reason.
Right? So that means if this is your self-image of you, then you are insecure and you are seeking. And now the minute you open your eyes, you see what? Objects, people and situations which come and go. Some are pleasurable. So this insecure person thinks that
He needs more experiences, more pleasure, more money, more objects to make him feel good.
Exactly. Right? So that means this whole phenomena of Shobhana Dhyasa starts with the starting point of you being this small person and you see all of these things and then you think what? Wow, they will satisfy me. So that means already you're giving them the value that
You're already giving them an extra value.
Exactly. Right? So this phenomena itself leads to what we call Shobhanadhyasa. You give them more value. Now, what is interesting is that suppose you gave them more value and you are smart, right? People are smart, people are not dumb. So therefore, very quickly you can find out that, hey, this is not giving me what I really want and people are not giving me what I really want and situations are also not giving me the final fulfillment that I am searching for. But why do we spend lifetimes pursuing this?
This is not something else.
Super. There are two things which keeps us hooked for lifetime. One, the first thing is all these things momentarily do give us that pleasure, right?
So it's the lack of the knowledge.
Excellent. But see, even if you didn't have that knowledge, you still kind of continue because it creates this momentary pleasure. So that means you say, hey, yeah, okay, it is giving me that happiness, so therefore you get hooked onto it.
But isn't it possible to keep engaging in that momentary pleasure and yet being distant from it? That's what we...
So this is what we are trying to see. We are trying to see that actually we are not trying to shun this, but only see their value for what they are. Then you actually are happy. I mean, you can enjoy, you can be amidst things, but you are not dependent on it. Do you understand? That's what we are actually, this is Vairagya. It's not about staying away. The staying away is such a huge image that people have created without understanding what this amazing word means, you know. So this is why he goes back to the root, because how do you know whether what Swamiji is saying is right or what others are saying is right? So that's why he goes to the root meaning. Do you understand how that scholarship is different from just speaking out?
Neeta, New Zealand, she is singing where next now? If she thinks that, okay, I cannot go anywhere at all, then she'll be in depression.
So now you're playing Rajiv's role. Rajiv, you're influencing now.
Yeah, just
Trisha.
back of argument.
Okay. So that means this, it does give you
It
momentary
doesn't mean
pleasure.
that. You got it wrong.
Okay, it does give you some.
Continue this discussion at home.
Okay. See, this does give you some pleasure. It's not like it doesn't give you any pleasure. If it didn't give you any pleasure, we are too smart to figure it out. It is not. But it gives, so that's why we are hooked on. And then, as Tushar said, by the time one object you have suppose satisfied and it has given you that moment, some other object or person or situation emerges. So that is why we keep.
Emerge doesn't mean that it's all consuming you. It's a thing.
So this is what I'm saying. That it's not like everything is all consuming. I am not saying that. What I'm saying is with reference to some things, all of us have
We give too
we
much
lose
value.
exactly either too much value or even too little value, right? This is a phenomena that is a most common phenomena. So what he's asking us is, why is it that we all have that? Even smart people have it, and that is because our first assumption. Do you understand? Our first assumption that I am small and I am insignificant and I am limited. And then when you open your eyes, you see all of this. So that dependency naturally arises. Do you understand? Right? It's not like with reference to everything, but with reference to something, you are bound to, because as long as you carry this self-image. Do you understand? Yeah?
Maybe all of us carry the self-image.
All of us, because before coming to Vedanta, who are you? Tell me. Small, this little individual, and that, so suppose you say your body, your mind, your senses, even though they are pretty, probably you are beautiful, maybe your mind is intelligent, and your senses are good, you can, but at the same time, in the map of the universe, who are you? If you take your body and mind, it is minuscule. So that is what we mean by small. We don't mean by saying, it's not about low self-esteem here. It's about, if your identity is here and you find yourself in the world, how big is the world and where are you? Even just your position in the grand scheme of things, even Earth is a dot in that sense, right? So this is why and so therefore, and you can't stand this smallness. Why? Because at the same time, right, when you're born with this given body, mind, senses, you are the center. So you are caught in a paradox where you, for yourself, are the center. At the same time, that center is small. That center, which is small, you cannot stand, so you try to make it big. How do you try to make it big? Through engaging in all these activities. Right? So that means it starts with Shobhanadhyasa. No person who is caught in this, which is what we call ignorance. This is ignorance because you are the whole, right? This is a starting point. You can't have no Shobhanadhyasa. Do you understand that? This is why Vairagya is very important. Do you understand? So that means in some areas, almost every human being will have either more value or less value. So we find ourselves, we are not totally seeing things as they are. That's what he's explaining. He's explaining why is it that it's so rampant to have Shobhanadhyasa because of this scenario with which all of us live. Is it clear?
Yeah, this is one of the most important and difficult things to.
It's an amazing concept.
Because, like,
Isn't it? So now, before we even get to, so what he's talking about is, even before we get to this problem solving by knowing our true nature, that I am not this small and insignificant human being, I am the whole, you first need to give right place to objects, people and situation. This is what we call Indriyartheshu vairagya. We have to learn to reduce our Shobhanadhyasa on all of these
But you
things.
can do that only if you have that knowledge.
So that means not totally. So suppose without bringing the nature of Atma, it's true, but without bringing the nature of Atma, I can show you money is neither what?
It doesn't give you
Neither
everything.
everything, nor it is totally useless. I can make you see that, right? I can also make you see the fact that people, they do give you pleasure. At the same time, they also give you a hard time. So if you are dependent upon them for your happiness, it's not going to be possible. So even without bringing this, I can show you with reference to
Yeah, but
this.
it's much easier once you.
Excellent. It's true. Why? Wonderful. That's a super point that Tushar is making. Suppose, this is very, very important. Suppose I'm able to show you without even bringing any of this. I'm able to show you objects cannot do the job, people cannot do the job, situations cannot do the job. Then you are
What
stuck.
will-
Exactly.
what will, fulfill me?
Superb. So now, at least before you were engaging in the world to get that fulfillment, now I'm telling you none of this
Now
will
it's
give
that
you,
questioning.
but you still have to answer the question, then what will? Because that's your search. That this small person cannot stand being small. So that means then a real Vairagya can only come when you change this self-image of yours from body, mind, sense complex to say you are actually the whole. So you are not dependent upon anything in this universe. So that means, do you understand?
Wow.
It's one
It's really
It
amazing
is
because
amazing.
you enjoy things so much more,
More.
without the
Absolutely.
dependency.
Absolutely. So, there is a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita. We will do it in Bangkok if you come to Bangkok. It's a lovely, it describes a wise person, right? How does a wise person engage in this world? Exactly. And what a lovely imagery it uses. It says, Apuryamana achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama yah pravishanti sal shanti mapnoti nakamakami. Beautiful verse. What it says is that just as ocean is full, right? Disappearing of a little water going into the river and rivers water coming into it doesn't make it any less or more full. It is full by itself. Like that, the wise person enjoys one's fullness. Objects come and go, and he can engage with them, but it doesn't create debt or lack in that person. This is dispassion. Dispassion is nothing to do with staying away. It is about discovering yourself to be this free person and not having dependency on that. But exactly as Tushar says, until you discover this, total dependency on this cannot go because you are stuck in a wrong self-image. Is it clear? Sorry? No, chapter 2, the second last verse. 71 or something, 70, 71. Beautiful. So,
Is it similar to the idea of the two birds on the branch, where one is engaging in eating the fruit and one is observing? Is that
and the one is seeing a much, much bigger picture.
Yeah.
And exactly, that is in Mundaka Upanishad.
Mundaka.
Mundaka Upanishad, yes. So, there is
We also
imagery
know
where
everything is interconnected, everything is interdependent in this world.
yes, but yeah, that's true. So then, can you tell me what are you? See, when we talk about Vedanta, you have to keep one thing very, very clear. Are you talking about individual growth, which is the person and the person dealing with the world and correcting all the distortions? Or are you talking about the final reality that the person has discovered, which is free from anything that happens in the world? Because if you keep mixing the two, then what will happen is there is a confusion, right?
So you know it is connected, but still be free of it. Yeah, you just know that's all. You
No,
don't
but
become
what
dependent.
what are you trying to know? You tell me what
Like
exactly is your
for
point.
example, we say we depend on nature, we depend
Yes.
on a lot of things in this world. So we are connected to everything.
Okay, yeah, that's a good
We are
point. Okay, I
connected.
see what you mean. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, non-dependency. Okay, very good. Okay, that's a very good point. Okay, I understand what she's saying. I use the word non-dependency, right? Non-dependency, what she's saying is everything is interdependent and everything is interconnected. So when I use the word non-dependence, it doesn't mean that you don't depend. I do depend upon water, I do depend upon the air for my existence. Non-dependency, the connotation which I mean is that what you don't think that your
Happiness depends on
exactly it is a solution to my what
My fulfillment.
fulfillment exactly things you use right that you need to use because you are in an interconnected. So this is why this dependency in this case has a different meaning. So that means if you attribute your well-being or you think that that is solution to your fulfillment that you are searching, that dependency I'm talking about. Nothing is going to give you that. Is it clear? Is it clear? Yeah. So that means you are dependent. But here the meaning of dependency is not that you don't draw from it. It means that you don't think that that is the solution to your well-being. You need many things. Yeah. That's why neither to negate the world as, that's exactly what Nirmala is saying is true. That if suppose you have a negative Shobhanadhyasa, that the world is bad, that is so unsustainable because you're constantly drawing from the world for your survival. How is the world bad? How is the world material, right? Your survival depends upon it. Your survival depends upon participation of so many people, even for simple things like, the book being printed or the glasses being made, people participate. So we are not talking about that non-dependency.
We're talking about abstinence.
We are not talking about abstinence. We are not talking about staying away from things. We are talking about seeing what is the source of fulfillment. The more and more you see what is the real source of fulfillment, the objects, people and situations will get their right position, not over dependency. They don't become solution to your solving your problem of lack and inadequacy.
There's a great, fantastic food, you enjoy the food, but it doesn't become an obsession.
Exactly.
That, oh, if I don't get this food
Yes.
tomorrow, then,
Exactly. And that is true with reference to everything. Right. Okay, let's read
I just want to ask you,
Yes.
where does this ignorance come from?
This ignorance,
Yeah,
Okay.
that I'm small.
this ignorance that I am small, this ignorance comes, that's a very technical question. So where does it come? We are all actually born with it.
this is a universal. Like
Yeah, it's
everybody
universal.
feels this.
Yes. So when we do the next text, which is Kathopanishad, I will have to explain. It requires explaining of Maya, and within Maya, what are the different Shaktis and all that. So it's a technical question. But for now, all of us are born with it. But in this lifetime, we are given the possibility of removing it. So this is why this book is necessary. What it says that this ignorance you cannot remove unless you have all these values. If you think that you will just get to this nature of I without solving all these relative problems, it's not going to happen. So how this book prepares you and gives you a kind of a mind which is ready for that bigger knowledge. So that means we are all born with it and we have the capacity to remove it, but we have to prepare our mind to actually remove it. Like any other discipline. Suppose you want to learn physics and you can be very good at math, but if you don't have right training, you are not going to be able to understand PhD level physics. So you have to go through that discipline of studying and going step by step before your mind is able to capture those ideas accurately. Similar. Right.
And,
Yeah,
so
please
I
tell.
was saying that in different people,
Huh.
the level of ignorance also is not, it's not like that, it's not like something like biological. Because different people.
Okay,
yeah,
see what you are
in my
mixing
own
up
life,
is,
in one's
yeah.
mind, I'm not saying an external thing. At different stages of my life, this ignorance And it's like it's
Yeah.
on the,
So that, okay, now what you are talking, see, that's what I said, when you talk about Vedanta, we have to be very careful what you are talking about. Otherwise, what will happen, will mix up everything. So that means this ignorance that we talk about,
Can we say that this ignorance is there because of what we think our association with our body and our no,
yeah, the real problem, I mean,
our association with that is not.
okay, so now let's talk about ignorance, right? So when we talk about ignorance, then see that we are born, all of us neither know anything about ourselves nor we know anything about the world, right? So that means ignorance is of two types. One is of your nature, which is your true nature, and this is what about the world, right? Now, suppose you go to school, right, and you study science, you study math, you study biology. So you study all of this and you remove ignorance, right? Now, you can become really, really good. You can become a genius, but at the same time, the ignorance about your true nature still remains, right? You think I am this individual. So that is why you see what in one science, so like I had a student and he says he studied in France and he went to, he was very, very bright, so he went to a very, very special school where only geniuses go. And then he says, my God, when I went to that school, I was all of a sudden at the bottom of my class because now all of a sudden there are all these geniuses. And in my school, I was so used to being the top student, and then I reached that. So that means that also, as you say, it increases and it decreases. Sometimes you go to a place and you think that you are cool, but then, or you, many Indian students here, they were mediocre, but when they go to the US, then all of a sudden, all the brightness comes out. So that itself keeps fluctuating, right? Now, within, about the world, why we have this ignorance about our true nature, we think of ourselves as this mind with this given function which is ahankara. So all these are a lot of technical things, but just this mind keeps creating your own image about yourself, right? Sometimes you feel you're really cool, sometimes you feel, oh my God, I'm getting fat, sometimes you feel, oh my God, I'm really smart, sometimes you go and hear a talk where you don't understand anything and you feel, oh my God, I'm dumb. So this also keeps changing. Do you understand that? So this knowledge and ignorance, how much you feel that you know, that keeps changing. This image that you have about yourself also keeps changing depending upon different situations. But all of them happen within one ignorance, which is who are you essentially? Are you essentially this individual, or are you this one reality which is the truth of everything? So that means this ups and downs, right, you see within this, but this remains intact. This knowledge is, what it is saying is, all these fluctuations will keep happening and you will keep going through up and down until you solve this problem, this ignorance, which is what we call Mula Avidya. These are all ramifications of this Mula Avidya. This is a root cause, and within this root cause, everything else happens, and this all keeps fluctuating. Is it clear? Huh?
So the crux is the.
So here in Vedanta class, we are, yes, to a certain extent, we are asking you to prepare the mind to be more objective, to be able to have proper relations with everything. And also, even these disciplines actually help the mind because it develops your cognitive skills, it develops your self-image. Suppose you are good at math, it helps in your self-image. So all of this, here in fact, you have to be healthy. It's not you have to stay away from all of this. Living in this world, you learn to be, this is the book, learn to be healthy so that your mind is able to solve this problem of avidya. If you try to shun this and just try to concentrate on this, it's going to be counterproductive. That's the whole premise of Bhagavad Gita. This is why I was telling Namu, and this is a very common thing. See, Vedanta, when it is presented, there are a lot of very creative ways to present what Vedanta is trying to say. And one of them is Yoga Vasishtha. It's a very old tradition, right? And the old tradition, what is the purpose of this Yoga Vasishtha tradition? That our whole orientation when we live in this world is that this is the reality. So all the stories are told in a way that, it shakes our sense of this is real. And that is wonderful. But it enters into some other problems, because then you start thinking, oh, the world is not real. Then what happens? All this you try to ignore, and you only try to go there. And therefore, in this, you have to first learn to be healthy. And
This is only what the Bhagavad Gita addresses. Actually, the lesson of this being in the world, even if it is Mithya, Jagat, Mithya, that you even have your interaction and how to navigate, is that it's not going
so much of Bhagavad Gita. In fact, Bhagavad Gita keeps switching back and forth. Right? It does talk about the nature of Atma being timeless. It talks about Atma being not subject to destruction, not having attributes. So it does address this. But it also addresses this, right? And this is why, and that's why Bhagavad Gita, people think it's easy. It's not easy. When Lord Krishna switches from here to there, you need to understand what he's talking about. Do you understand? Because otherwise it is so confusing. That is he talking about?
Suddenly he's talking about Dharma, and suddenly he goes into Atma.
Exactly,
That's
right?
first 6 chapters and the next 6 chapters
Right.
are completely
Exactly.
unrelated.
You see that? So that means you need a very competent teacher to teach you what he's talking about and what it is talking about in this verse. Otherwise, you can really get confused, right? So this is why, this is what we call Mula Vidya, and these are all further ramifications.
We are not approaching that just now, what you are saying. In this
What?
book, we are not approaching that. We
In
are
this
doing a
book,
preparation
we are
to be able
actually all
to be
this.
able to get into that.
Exactly. So when here we talk about Vairagya, we are not saying that, oh, Atma is full, so therefore you don't have to have dependency. We are seeing that how are the things sometimes with reference to people and all, we lose our objectivity. So bring that mind back to the factual realities so that it can abide in factual facts. Right? Now, the whole, you need to understand why this is so important. Right? I want to give you one example, which is I think it is useful. One is, suppose there is rho, which is what we call empirical reality. And you color
There's a snake.
and snake, right? Now, this is what we call your subjective Shobhanadhyasa, right? Your subjective reality. So where there is rope, you see a snake. And what Vedanta is trying to tell you is, even this rope, which is empirically real, is not as real as you think. And it is what? Nothing but atoms and particles, and then it is a concept, and that concept exists in awareness. Right? So this is what we call the absolute. So Vedanta shows you the absolute reality. We have been living thinking that this is the absolute reality. The empirical is the absolute reality. And sometimes what we project on the empirical also seems like absolute reality to us. So that means we live with reality confusion. Do you understand that? So that means that person may not be mean, but you perceive that person as mean, and you live thinking that that is the reality. So that means the empirical becomes absolute for us. Sometimes our subjective projection also becomes absolute for us. So there is whole reality is all wrong. Now, what Vedanta says is, before you get to this awareness, Suppose you don't even see rope as a rope and you see it as a snake, and as a result of seeing a snake, you are caught with your own fears, your own anxieties. So now, Vedanta is talking about the absolute, and your mind is operating within fears and anxiety of snake, which is not even there. So the first level is what? To bring your subjective to empirical. That is what this book is all about. Reduce all your subjectivities, reduce all your projections, reduce all your angularities in your thinking, so that your mind becomes more or less a clear mind, right? Once it is there, it is ready to go to the next step of inquiry and understand something which is even more fundamental than what you see in the world. Is it clear? So therefore, from here, if you try to keep repeating, oh, I'm this absolute, it is what we call superficial knowledge. It just skipping this whole big step of growth, it will be counterproductive. So this is it clear?
This makes sense.
It makes sense? Okay, good. So this is something that you absolutely, this is a foundation of Vedanta. If any teacher doesn't teach Vedanta like that, they will create more confusion than they will help. Okay?
The rope is the empirical reality. The rope is the empirical reality.
Rope is an empirical
And the
reality.
snake is
The subjective reality.
subjective reality.
And the final thing is. So in this Yoga Vasishtha story, the lines become very blurred because they don't distinguish between empirical and subjective. The whole world is kind of dismissed as mithya. Then you tend to think that all of this is not useful. I only need to pay attention to this. And that is when the mind goes cuckoo at times. Right? Because it doesn't have the preparation. It has not prepared itself for that understanding. But you just keep repeating it. And you don't know how to live properly. So that means that's when your projections actually multiply.
But once if you are totally in the empirical reality, does the absolute
Then
It's-
when
it's a
Vedanta, that mind which is kind of clear and not projecting too many things, is able to understand Vedanta at another level. Because until then, the words that the teacher says, they get filtered when you create your own images, because the mind is projecting. So you don't see what the teaching is trying to say. You create your own mental
You're
image.
saying something and you're thinking.
You're saying something else. Exactly. Exactly. This is why this repetition is so important, because people tell me that the first time you explain this and now it makes what we understand is so different. Why? Because over a period of time the mind is prepared. Yeah. Okay, next. Now you'll read. Yeah, as a human being, no?
As a human being, there will be no end to my longing and struggle for artha and kama. So long as I feel both insecure and incomplete, and think that artha and kama have the capacity to provide security and completeness, and I will not be able to gain dispassion for sense objects. Indriyastu
Indriyartheshu
vairagya. To become free from the compelling drive that is called raga, the desire for things, artha and pleasures, kama, I must analyze and discern that having a number of things does not make me secure, nor does any amount of pleasure fill my sense of emptiness. I must discover that my struggle to fulfill my sense of want is endless. No accumulation of wealth is enough to silence the inner anxiety. No pleasure sufficient to bring lasting fulfillment. Every gain, acquisition of any kind of wealth also involves loss. No gain is ever absolute. Every such gain involves a concomitant loss. A loss through the expenditure of time,
and effort required. A loss through responsibility assumed. A loss through some other alternative abandoned. Gain involves loss. A lasting sense of security is never achieved through earth. When I analyze pleasure, I find the same result. Human struggle for pleasure does not produce lasting contentment. I, like other human beings, live in a private subjective world where I see objects as desirable, undesirable, or neutral, neither desire nor undesired. When I observe reflectively, I find that what is desired by me is not desired by me at all times, at all places, nor is what I desire necessarily desired by other persons. What I desire, what brings me pleasure, is subject to constant change. Moments of pleasure require the concurrent availability of three factors: availability of the object of pleasures, availability of the appropriate effective instrument for enjoyment, and presence of the proper frame of mind to enjoy the object. Being dependent on these ever-changing factors, moments of pleasure are occasional and fleeting. Objects and instruments are bound by time. The mind is whimsical. It is subject to mood change, discovering monotony in what was formerly desirable. Analysis of pleasure shows that pleasure, like possessions, fails me in my effort to find fullness and completeness. Pleasure proves to be momentary and capricious, while possessions, no matter how many, do not equate with security. My raga, my passionate desire for possessions and pleasure, is based on my conviction that through gain of artha and kama, my sense of want will end. When I clearly see that that is not the case, the best I can hope for in the aggregation of wealth is the exchange of one kind of anxiety for another. Moreover, the most I can claim from pleasure is a collection of fleeting moments, impossible to hold or predict. Hence, I am ready to discover in myself the state of vairagya, not from self-denial, but from an understanding that loosens the whole of raga upon me. I see that objects, whether sought for pleasure or security, really cannot give me what I seek basically. If I wish to be dispassionate, I must know that very clearly now. Objects are useful, but none of them can give me what I really want. I see that I cannot find complete or lasting security in wealth or power or fame, nor can I find lasting fullness in accumulated moments of pleasure. When I do not place my security, my fullness, and my happiness in these things, I become more objective towards them. I treat them as objects which I can assess for what they are, rather than for what I subjectively expect from them. As simple objects, rather than the answer to my most profound needs, they assume their proper position. I do not give them an extra value that in reality they do not have. I see money as money, not as a guarantee against insecurity. I see a house as a house, not as a source of happiness. I see land as land, not as an extension of myself through possession. I see these things as they are. When I see objects stripped of the subjective values that I have projected upon them, when I cease to look upon them as a source of happiness, I become objective. I become dispassionate. This is the mental state of vairagya. Vairagya is an important value, one that must be understood correctly. Much nonsense is written about vairagya, leading to confusion. Vairagya is a state of mind brought about by understanding, not a state of mind compelled by a commitment to self-denial or deprivation. Vairagya is not born out of fear or teeth-clenched effort of will, but is born of sheer understanding. It is a knowledge produced by observation, inquiry, and analysis. I question why and what I desire, and what I achieve by fulfilling my desires. The understanding born of this analysis reduces the world to an objective fact for me, releases it from the tangle of my own subjectivity, the tangles of my likes and dislikes that bind me to situational happiness. It is my subjective value for things that makes what is a simple object into an object of special distinction, an object peculiarly important to me. Such objects then bind me. It is because I bind myself, not because the object binds me. No house binds me. I am bound to the house because of the subjective value I place on it. A subjective value based upon my failure to understand its inability to deliver what I expect from it. Things do not catch and hold me. It is I who catch them. The handle is in myself. My subjective values based upon failure to understand the limitations of things to fulfill me. When I understand, the handle disappears and I see things as they are. The state of seeing and understanding is called indriyarthi, dispassion towards sense objects.
What is he doing now?
Analyzing
Yeah, analyzing.
what is, what happened, where I place my, where I place my feeling of incomplete and what I do to fulfill that, and what is the gain and loss for that. And then coming down to what actually where I
Okay, very good. Anybody else? Very good.
See things as they are.
Yeah.
To operate on the objective reality and move from the subjective reality to the objective.
Exactly. See, that's exactly what. So right now we are only moving from this subjective reality to this objective reality, right? That's what the whole book is about, right? Now, what he did is little bit elaborate on the other side that why we have dependency. One is that we have ignorance about our true nature, and therefore our dependency on objects to fulfill us is almost natural. Then he is giving many different examples to show you that how these objects are incapable of fulfilling you as a person, even if they give momentary happiness. So what are some examples he gives? The objects, so you want to be satisfied through objects. Then he says this is not going to be possible because what he says.
keep changing.
Exactly.
What I desire now, I may not desire, and it may not give me the same satisfaction.
Excellent, right? So you want to be satisfied through these objects, and he says that this is not possible, and he gives reasons why. Why? One reason is your desires keep changing.
The object you might achieve, but your frame of mind might not be correct.
Excellent, right? The objects also, nobody can hold on to that given object forever. Objects are also changing.
Yeah, and has a time frame.
And also time and space constraint. And the third is what Tushar said. What did Tushar say?
Your frame of
Your-
mind might
your
not be
frame of
correct.
mind,
You might achieve that, but
suppose
you
you
have
still
some other
desire
problem
it.
which has come up and you can't enjoy that object.
Excellent, right? So that means, suppose you desire it, suppose you really wanted to go out, and that's what happened to when we first met Rajiv in Bombay. So I remember. So Namrata was going to join us for lunch, and she came. So that means that she had desired to come, and he took us to a really nice restaurant. So that nice restaurant was also there, and she got a call. And the call was about her daughter had applied to some school, and then whether she got it or not get it or all that, and what her frame of mind.
Change. Three things have to connect.
Exactly. Her frame of mind changed. So her mind was always on like, oh, this daughter, now did she get into this school, and now what happens, and this and that. So therefore, everything else was conducive, and here your frame of mind. So this is all changing. Within all three changing, you want lasting contentment. So that is what he's saying, it's impossible. He's not just making a statement saying, oh, please don't depend upon them because you will not find. He's explaining why you will not find. Through this, if you want, then this is the problem because all three are changing all the time. Through that, you want constant happiness. It is, it's like running behind Mirage. Okay? He explains that. What else does he explain?
Wapas photo.
This is the thing, it seems like very.
But tell me honestly, if you don't have a desire to fulfill, we are not in a frame of mind to understand this to a certain extent. I feel. I'm not saying, look at a poor person. Today is he wanting to study Vedanta when he has nothing? Suppose he has nothing.
See, the thing
It's
is,
a little, see, today we are all at a stage when we
Yes.
are reasonably happy as well.
Yeah. See, this is a very interesting thing. We sitting in South Bombay, we feel as though you have to be very comfortable before you come to Vedanta. When we went to our for my 3.5-year course, right? So it's interesting that some were like super achievers. They were brilliant, right? And they were comfortable. Some were like whatever, mediocre. Some were like simple village people who came from very, very humble background. They all ended up in the ashram studying with Swamiji for 3.5 years. So that means we think that only a certain type of person will come to Vedanta. Actually, there is no rule. There is no real rule. This is where Lord Krishna says, right, that Arjuna asks him this question. And he says that suppose I start this pursuit and suppose I don't get the totality of it, I haven't prepared myself enough. So my mind has not yet captured the vision 100%. What will happen to me? Okay? So then Lord Krishna talks about there are possibilities that you will be taken care of. Don't worry, once you start this knowledge, there is no going back, right? But he gives different options of what will happen to you. One, he says, Shrimatam Gehe. Shrimatam means in a wealthy family, where this is the scenario that you are talking about, that what that it becomes exactly. So you are comfortable, everything is taken care of. So you don't have any binding. It's not like you have to struggle.
Responsibilities, you may not have
So
time.
that is exactly right. So this is what we call a Shrimatam Gehe. Then the next person he calls Shuchina. Very interesting. Huh? So that means you can be a middle class, suppose, or even a low class. Suppose, I don't mean to say low class, I mean to say lower income.
Yeah.
What's the middle road?
Right?
Financial
Clean.
Financial status, right?
Middle and clean. See.
It's very,
Yeah, that one.
this Shuchi is clean.
Okay.
Right? Clean means, suppose you are born in a family where there are certain values which are, sometimes very simple people hold values such as honesty, certain integrity, certain warmth, certain emotional connection. Sometimes they get even more. Some middle class sometimes has even healthier values. As you become more and more this thing, the distortions at times, I'm not saying always, but they also, life becomes complex, right? So that means that that person who's clean, right? I know one person, she's, like not some extremely wealthy and all. And she says, the minute I met Swamiji, there was such a connection. And Swamiji also told me, my God, you are so clean. So you are so ready for Vedanta. So that means that her thought processes were not too distorted.
She had not added too many
Too many.
colorings.
Exactly. Absolutely.
She had kept her value system clear.
Absolutely. So then, when she met Swami, but at the same time, everybody has a struggle in life, right? It's not like everybody's life is. But because there were not that many distortions, the teaching of Swamiji was like that fuel to the fire. It totally, because the person was quite ready, right? So you can have Sri Matam Gehe, and the other option that Lord Krishna says, Athava eva yoginam eva kule. Yoginam kule. So that means in somebody's home, suppose you had what scholars. So many people also tell, even they used to tell Swamiji, my grandfather was this great scholar. So that means you are born in a family where already there are people who are connected to
teaching and
this
all is there.
tradition. Exactly.
Inquiry and
Exactly. Right. So that means these are all very different kind of people. This person can be sitting in a village. Do you understand that? And this person can be from a very small town and nothing much and all that. And there can be this very wealthy people. But it's all about different and variable. But one thing is common. What is one thing which is common? In this lifetime, somehow they are searching. Right?
Yeah, the
Otherwise,
questioning.
there are so
Searching.
many wealthy people who are not into Vedanta. There are so many middle class and then they are not into Vedanta. There are so many traditional scholars, and here it is like the whole teaching. So this is, but even they can get completely go on a
Really,
tangent.
they can go into-
completely, sometimes scholars go on a complete tangent. They get all totally caught with Sanskrit and this and that, and they lose the whole purpose of Shastra. So do you understand that? So therefore,
Bhajagovindam thing, no? That you are back,
The-
learning the shlokas,
the-
your life you are trying to do, but the
But-
simplistic
exactly.
is the search for.
Absolutely, that you miss out, right? So this is not, there are all different kinds of people. The one common thing is that you are searching. Without that, and that search has to come from you. Nobody can impose it on you, right? So,
It's very simple and complex. It's kind of interesting.
isn't it?
Even in that search, it's your own thing and it's God's grace as well, right? So you
So that
So
means
that feeling of lack has to be there in you, and then you are looking in a right direction.
direction, exactly.
You
We
could
all have a
be
feeling of
that
lack.
feeling of lack. You can be going and sitting in a bar,
Bye, Mama.
or you could be sitting here.
We set up our weekly sessions in from
Sorry?
Nita, we conduct the classes now.
I know the Bhavan is your, the ball is in your court to conduct the class then.
Okay, it's almost 11:40, the 10th.
10.
Okay, but is it clear that this
A lot of kept looking, so 50%.
You have to navigate through to get that, to get this ready and
It's effort and grace.
is grace?
But once you are introduced to this knowledge, it's very difficult to get away.
very difficult.
You're bound to pursue it.
So why there are many people,
There's so many people who
start
drop
and feel, oh
out.
shit, nothing's happening for me,
Yeah,
and then
they
they
just drop out. Yeah.
I find this concept I read here a little bit still complicated because I'm always giving this example. I'm jumping into the swimming pool and my teacher's asking me not to get wet. I mean, you're bound to get wet when you're in a swimming pool. So same thing, you are going to have some coloring and I'm having
So
to learn.
yeah, okay, very good. Okay, that's very, very good. That's an excellent question. That there is probably never going. So that's why he makes a difference between having preferences, right? So that means suppose Namrata likes fashion, so that's no problem, right? And suppose Namu likes writing, there is no problem, right? It's not like you are told as to see everything equally. That's not what Vairagya is. And that kind of everything is stripped off because you like things. Simple preferences is also part of objective reality. Suppose you are into finance and Nirmala is into something. So we all behave and do things according to our preferences. So it's not like have zero coloring. That's not what we are saying. So you are inclined towards, somebody wants to be a cricketer, so there is an inclination. Somebody wants to be an artist, so there is an inclination. That is not a problem. Right?
Zero desire
What
also is
we
not.
are saying is that when you have that, but if it becomes a dependency, right? So then it is something which is, at some point it will start manifesting. And that dependency, you can say, yeah, so what, right? Only when I'm really disappointed, then I'll try even harder and on. And this is how we are driven. Now the only thing is that if you're off, it will give you suffering. And nobody can stand suffering. So that means your whole attempt in life is to what? Find the fulfillment. And if you want to find the fulfillment through this removing of that ignorance, your mind has to become more or less the mind which is able to see things as they are, and not through your lens where you add so much of your own color, and then becomes, the whole thing is, it's not that I prefer this. Without this, I cannot be fulfilled. There is a difference. Do you understand?
That's why zero desire, your life is.
It is totally,
yeah.
exactly. So this is why I want to go out for dinner, no problem. But if I'm not invited to dinner, oh, I'm not cool, I'm not accepted in the social circle, I'm nobody. This is a problem. Do you understand? So you have to, we are not asking you to live a robotic life. We are not asking you to have like zero, just like only kind of, and within this world you are bound to have preferences. You want to do things, you want to enjoy, that's all fine. But it is about, where do you see the place of this? Do you see it as something which I need for my fulfillment, and that is a solution to my fulfillment, or something that I can have a good time with, and that's wonderful. That is the thing. And this is why, because you see everybody, because nobody is taught this. So as I told you, everybody lives with a wrong self-identity. So they are bound to have problem in some areas. You will not find a person who doesn't have a problem in some areas of their life. So the whole teaching is about recognize for yourself what are those areas which throw you off, and work on yourself. So it's not about not engaging, but you get that freedom from dependency. It's a very delicate